Good morning and welcome to Family Computer Center. My name is Joji and today we are going to discuss about the selectors in CSS. CSS is helping us to set the font style, colors and layout for our web page, but we need to identify which item of the website we want to apply the styles for. For example, your website might be having headings, paragraphs, images, and so on. So among these, which item to be targeted to apply the styles? For this purpose, selectors are used. Okay, so we have mainly three types of selectors in CSS. They are number one, element selector, number two, ID selector, and number three, class selector. I will explain each of them in detail with example. First, I will walk you through the HTML file I will be using for this lesson. In this HTML file, we have got two heading 1 elements. So H1 elements here, one for the Family Computer Center, and we have one for the services. And we have four paragraphs, one for the main description, and two, three, and four for the sub descriptions. And three heading 2 elements. So here you can see heading 2 for corporate training, heading 2 for individual training, and heading 2 for testing services. Okay, and four heading 3 elements. So here I have added four heading 3 elements. And I have made a CSS folder inside my root folder. So you can see here the CSS folder, and it's inside my root folder. My root folder name is example. Okay, and we have a CSS file inside this one called style.css. And here is a file which is empty. We haven't write any style so far. Okay, and I have linked this style document with my index.html file using the link statements. Okay, and if we execute the page right now, it will look somewhat like this. Like this. There is no style, there is no color, nothing inside it. It's a usual, regular, normal website. Okay, so now I'm switching back to my Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now I want to give red color for all my heading 1 elements. So what I'm going to do is like I will switch over to my CSS file, then I will open H1. Then after that, I will open a butterfly bracket. Then inside the butterfly bracket, I'm going to write color red. Correct? I will switch back to my browser and let's see what happens. So when I refresh my browser, you can see all my heading 1 is like now turned into red color. Okay. This time, I'm just switching back to the Visual Studio Code once again. This time we were using H1, which is the element name we use in HTML document, correct? So we are targeting heading 1 by calling H1, the element name, directly. So this is called element selector. That means you are applying the style to a particular element using the HTML element name. Okay, so when you are applying styles using the element selector, that style will be applied to all the elements, all that particular element in your web page. Like for example here H1, this one also affected, this one also affected. So if you have more heading ones, those headings also will get affected. Okay, so this kind of style writing is not really recommended. Okay, now I will apply green color for the heading 2 elements also using the same method. So I give heading 2, then I open the butterfly bracket and I'm just saying like color, then green. Okay, I will switch back to my browser. So when I refresh, all my heading 2 now turned into green color. Okay, What if I want to make the second heading individual training to another color, say for example, orange color. For example, this individual training, I want to set it as orange color. Okay, so we need to identify this particular heading uniquely. Okay, so here comes the importance of the ID selector. If you want to identify a particular element in your web page, you will use ID selector. Okay, so you need to set a unique ID for this. How do we set a unique ID? For example, this is the heading I want to target uniquely. Okay, so for setting the unique ID, inside the opening tag of your H2 element, you will give ID, then you will give a name. So I'm just giving INTR. So that's for individual training. I just give INTR. Okay, so you can use any name for this ID. For example, here I use INTR. You can use another word for that except a keyword. What do you mean by a keyword? A keyword is a reserved word either by the HTML or by the CSS. Example, you cannot give an ID name as the same name as an HTML element. Same like any keyword you use in CSS cannot be turned into as an ID. Okay, now we will switch back to the CSS file. So here I want to access that particular element with the ID. So how do we access the element with an ID? So it's very easy. So you just put a hashtag and you give the ID name here. Then you open the butterfly bracket and you repeat the same thing like color orange. Correct? So now I will switch back to my browser and let's see what's the speciality. When I refresh, this one turned into orange. Correct? So from a group, you want to identify a particular item uniquely, you will be using what? ID selector. Correct? Okay. So hope you are clear about the ID selector. Now we will discuss about the class selectors. Okay. So I'm switching back to my Visual Studio Code now. Okay, so when I look at my index.html page, so we have total of 4 paragraphs here. Okay, so one paragraph is under the main heading and other 3 are under the subheadings, correct? So we have 4 different paragraphs. So we need to set same styles for the sub paragraphs under the subheadings. Okay. Now we need to set unique style for the paragraph under the main heading also. That's what is our task. Okay, so I can't use the element selector as it will style all of my paragraphs. So, or I'm going to do this like I'm I'm going to apply a class for sub paragraph and an ID for the main paragraph because I want to apply a unique style for this paragraph, same style for these 3 paragraphs. So for this paragraph, I'm going to set an ID. So I will give like ID, then I'll give main para. Okay. And for the other paragraphs, I'm going to set a class, then I'm saying like sub P. Then here also I will repeat the same class name, class sub P, and here also I will use the same class name, class sub P. Correct? So those are my sub paragraphs. Now I will switch back to my CSS file and I want to access the class I made, which is sub P. So for accessing the class, same like ID, you will start with a dot. Sorry, the ID you will start with a hash and the class you will start with a dot. Then you will say sub P and I'm going to give the color to maybe blue. Correct? So when I switch back to my browser, you can see all my sub paragraph now turned into blue color, not the main paragraph, because we classify the sub paragraph as sub P. Okay, so now what if I want to give a color for the main paragraph? So we have set an ID for the main paragraph, so that is main para. Then I will open the butterfly bracket and I'm going to give color brown. Okay, so now I will switch back to my browser. Then when I refresh, my first paragraph is now having brown color. Okay, so I believe you now you understand how do you set the class and how do you use it, right? Okay, ID selector and class selector may look similar, but they are different. What are those differences? ID selector is used for uniquely identifying an element, but the class is used for classifying a group of elements. It is not unique. In the case of ID, each element can have only one ID, but in the case of class, you may use same class name for multiple elements. Now, in the case of ID, in a particular HTML document, you will have only one element having a particular ID. In the case of class, you can use multiple classes for the same element. And one more important thing you have to remember is if you use the same ID for more than one element, there won't be a programming error, but that's not the right programming way. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you so much for watching and make sure that you subscribe to our channel so that you will not miss any further video we post. See you again. Bye for now.